Okay, let's dive right into the magic of fortified wines. We're going to trace the exact journey these incredible bottles take, starting from the raw dirt of the vineyard, moving through the strict science of the winery lab, and finally ending up as that complex aromatic liquid right there in your glass. If you've ever wondered how a simple grape transforms into a masterpiece that can age for decades, sometimes even over a century, well, you're in exactly the right place. To really wrap our heads around these drinks, here's our game plan for today. We'll start by decoding fortified wines, track the vine's annual cycle, look at timing the perfect harvest, explore the science inside the winery, and wrap up with aging, styles, and regions. All right, Section 1, Decoding Fortifying Wines. I mean, just look at that brilliant, deep color. Right away, you know we're dealing with a really special category here. These are wines celebrated all over the world for their intense flavor concentration, their astonishing complexity, and honestly, their incredible aging potential. They aren't just your average Tuesday night beverage, they're literal masterclasses in preservation and time. But what's the actual mechanism giving them that incredible staying power and high ABV?
Well, the secret sauce is fortification. Basically, this is the process of adding distilled alcohol directly into the fermenting grape must. And why do winemakers do this? Because hitting that fermenting juice with extra alcohol forcefully and intentionally stops the natural yeast fermentation dead in its tracks. This brilliantly traps a good portion of the grape's natural unfermented sugars, so you get a final product that's not only naturally sweeter, but also packs a much higher alcohol punch than your standard table wine.
Moving right along to Section 2, the vine's annual cycle. Everything starts with Vitis vinifera. It's a surprisingly fragile climbing plant that viticulturists have to watch like a hawk. It's got these deep roots constantly hunting for water and nutrients, and large leaves driving photosynthesis. But what really dictates the final harvest is its strict, unbreakable biological cycle. The vine operates on a completely uncompromising clock. In winter, it's dormant. It drops its leaves and essentially takes a long nap to conserve energy. Then spring hits, temperatures rise, and boom, we get budding. New shoots and leaves boldly burst out. Summer brings flowering, where the future grapes start to form, rapidly followed by virescin. That's the beautiful phase where the grapes actually change color and start building up sweetness. And finally, autumn brings maturation and the all-important harvest.
But here's the catch. To successfully pull off that cycle and achieve perfect maturation, the vine is incredibly picky about its climate. The absolute sweet spot, the ideal growing season temperature, is a tight window between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius. Too cold? The grapes just won't develop enough sugar. Too hot? The vines literally shut down. So this temperate zone is absolutely crucial for producing the high-quality fruit these wines demand. Then you have the delicate tightrope walk of water management. Now, Vitis vinifera is actually pretty drought resistant thanks to those deep roots we talked about, thriving on just 600 to 800 millimeters of rain a year. But timing is literally everything. Rain during flowering, the flowers can drop, ruining the crop before it even begins. Rain during the autumn harvest, total viticultural nightmare. It makes the ground a muddy mess, makes harvesting nearly impossible, and can cause widespread rot. And the ultimate villain? Hail. A sudden hailstorm can shred the leaves, batter the canes, and completely wipe out a year's fruit in a matter of minutes.
Which brings us to Section 3, timing the perfect harvest.
Ticking the exact day to pluck those grapes isn't just a gut feeling. It is incredibly precise science. Winemakers are basically balancing two competing ticking clocks. First up is phenolic maturity. That's the development of flavor compounds and tannins, which you evaluate by literally walking the vineyard and tasting the grapes. Then there's technological maturity, the strictly chemical measure of brick sugars and acid levels calculated back in the lab. A winemaker has to patiently wait for that one fleeting, magical moment when the flavor structure and the chemical sugars align perfectly to create their desired style. And it gets even wilder. Some regions take that harvested sweetness and push it to the absolute extreme. For intensely sweet fortified wines like Pedro Ximénez, growers use this amazing traditional technique called asoleo. After manually harvesting the grapes, they don't rush them to the press. Instead, they lay the bunches out on mats or hang them on trellises right under the baking sun. They literally let the sun dehydrate the grapes for weeks, sometimes even months. This evaporates the water and wildly concentrates the remaining sugars and intense flavors. They are practically turning them into raisins before the winemaking even begins.
All right, let's head indoors for Section 4, Science Inside the Winery.
Before anything can officially be called wine, that freshly pressed juice faces some serious entry controls. Nothing is left to chance here. A Brix analysis measures the exact sugar levels to dictate the final sweetness, while acidity and pH tests make sure the wine will stay balanced and fresh. They evaluate phenolic compounds to predict color and aging potential, and crucially, they run microbiological tests. They are hunting down any unwanted wild yeasts or bacteria that could ruin the whole batch. It has to pass these strict scientific tests before fermentation starts.
And this brings us right back to that pivotal moment, the fortification itself. As we established, adding that distilled alcohol instantly halts the fermentation process, beautifully preserving the grape's residual sugar. By stopping the yeast before it eats all that sweetness, the winemaker is building a massive, high-alcohol structural foundation. This is exactly what allows the wine to survive and brilliantly evolve over decades inside a barrel.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, Aging, Styles, and Regions.
Once it's fortified, the wine is put to rest. Imagine these beautiful, stacked wooden barrels sitting in quiet, dark cellars. This prolonged aging process is what truly defines the wine's ultimate identity, complexity, and aromatic profile. But exactly how it interacts with the environment inside those barrels, that creates entirely different worlds of flavor. It all comes down to an incredible fork in the road: biological aging versus oxidative aging. With biological aging, a miraculous layer of natural yeast, called flor, grows across the entire surface of the wine inside the barrel. This flor is like a protective blanket, completely shielding the liquid from oxygen. The result? Pale wines with super fresh, pungent, salty, and almond-like flavors. On the flip side, we have oxidative aging. Here, there is no flor. The wine is purposely exposed to oxygen over many, many years. This constant interaction with the air darkens the wine, developing incredibly rich, heavy, concentrated notes of caramel, spice, and dried fruit.
And from those aging choices, we get these legendary, highly distinct styles. Fino and Manzanilla, entirely biologically aged. They are pale, bone-dry, and wonderfully crisp. Then you've got Oloroso, which is entirely oxidatively aged, dark, full-bodied, and totally complex. But check this out. Amontillado actually experiences both. It starts life biologically aging under flor, but eventually the flor dies off and it finishes its life aging oxidatively. This creates an amazing layered complexity. Then there's Palo Cortado, a super rare, highly regarded hybrid. It mysteriously loses its flor early on, giving it the elegant nose of an Amontillado, but the heavy, rich body of an Oloroso. And finally, Pedro Ximénez, or PX. Made from those sun-dried grapes we mentioned, it is intensely syrupy sweet, just bursting with dates and raisins. You're going to find these heavily regulated styles primarily in a few world-famous regions. Jerez in southern Spain is the legendary home of sherry, mainly using the Palomino grape. Right nearby in Andalusia is Montilla Moriles, famous for their Pedro Ximénez and Moscatel. And out in the Atlantic, we have the Portuguese island of Madeira, using grapes like Malvasia to create incredibly long-lived wines with their own unique heat-treated aging process. These regions are absolutely the undisputed masters of the craft.
So, after exploring the science and history from grape to glass, where do you land? Are you leaning toward the crisp, salty magic of a Fino, or the dark, brooding caramel richness of an Oloroso? The next time you pour a glass of fortified wine, just remember the decades of science, survival, and pure artistry sitting right there in your hand. Which masterpiece are you going to taste next? Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and keep exploring.